Greetings and salutations.
Greetings.
Hello.
Wasn't sure if I was going to make it on time today, but they released me early.
Nice.
I checked in a grand total of 0 early voters today. Nobody wanted to vote early.
Now, which election is this?
This is a Republican primary in a very blue city,
Ah,
and it's just the city, not the whole county that's around it. So we did actually have one person show up, but they were just outside the city border, so they had to go vote in the county.
yeah, Republicans, they're not a fan of voting early or by mail. But yeah, go figure. Yeah,
Put on
just the
my
opposite
Republican
here.
hat. Voting early, that sounds illegal.
Vote early, vote often.
I'll refrain from all comments on the political parties. Gets me in trouble in multiple places at once, so I just figure just easier not to.
Hey, Sam.
Morning.
Morning. I don't know how politics came up. I swear it wasn't me this time.
No, it was me.
I asked the question. Yeah, my
No,
bad.
no, I take the blame for saying that's what I was up to this morning. But I'm not going to pick on any of the parties. Everybody gets a vote as long as they show up to the right place.
Yeah, we did that. So for some reason around here where I'm at, when we did the primaries, we had they moved the location, and then there was a runoff, and they moved that location again. It's like it's like ch chasing for a place to find. You got to look it up each time. Pain in the butt.
That's got to be a challenge. Yeah, I've worked a co-located precinct when only one half of the district was voting that day. And when I
Mm,
say one half, not by population, just like one of the two. And so
gotcha. Two
we
precincts.
had we had more people showing up that couldn't vote in that place because they didn't have an election that day than people that actually showed up that could vote. It was funny.
Oh, we're sorry. No, for your party, there were no competitors. It's
We're we're like, sorry, your representative's still alive. You can't vote.
oh gosh.
The joys of it.
It's
All right.
very-
So I don't have a whole lot on the agenda. We can chit chat all you guys want to chit chat. Couple things sitting out there for reviews, but otherwise open discussion for whatever folks want to chat about today. So the two review things, super simple here. Mike, you already threw yours on. That means Derek can be the one. We changed the Derek from digest to from
Tag or
reference to
digest.
tag or digest, to which Tianon was very happy that we said tag or digest must be either a digest or a tag.
Yeah, I love that. It's perfect. Please ship it.
We'll be very specific.
Yeah.
I reviewed this one, or at least we talked about it a lot.
We
Okay.
we have talked about a whole lot. You might have even reviewed it before and I had one phrasing and then Mike came along and said, nope, change it.
Nope.
So we changed it.
Classic Mike, yeah.
Classic Mike. We love you, Mike.
Sorry. Somebody's got to be the contrarian. I think we ended up with the best result.
It's the most consensus-based result. I'll go with that.
It's a explanatory name.
There you go.
Two verbs. Here you go. Well, I guess it's not adjectives.
This
Pain, but
one, Tianon, you're on the list of folks that can review this one. Maybe we'll get someone like Rom or yeah, I'm looking through the list here. Not sure who else will get to show up, so it's probably gonna have to be a ROM to show up on this one. Um, just a dependency bump, but it is throwing all kinds of dependent bot alerts at us for not having up-to-date dependencies. So I don't think too many people care because this is how we generate the page and we make sure that good data goes into all of our pages that are being generated. But just in case something slipped through the cracks there, this fixes all that and resolves a whole bunch of dependent bot alerts.
Yeah, we generate static HTML, right?
Yeah. It's the generator for the static HTML, and we control what can go into that. What you got, Sam?
Not that I should necessarily be the one asking this, but you were showing the list of people that can approve that, and I'm just looking at the list of maintainers for the OCI conformance project, and a lot of those people don't seem to be around much right now.
Yeah.
Um, is this something that the maintainers of that project would want to take action on, or would need to escalate to the TOB?
Um, we were really casual about, hey, let's just make everybody a maintainer that want to be a maintainer on that thing a while back. And that's how we got the people we've got in there right now. And I'm more than open if folks want to become a maintainer over there to adding more rather than trying to control this one too much. Most of the work on this is just someone comes in and says, my registry um, is conformant. Will you please add me to the list? And it's just us saying, yeah, that looks good. We'll
Okay, I
do
mean
that.
that's fine if we're not running into problems with like getting enough approvals on things.
I think we've got a challenge getting enough approvals in both distribution and this conformance repo right now. So it might be, I am throwing out there of anybody that wants to join in on this stuff, more than happy to add some more maintainers over there.
Have you verified that the generated content is identical?
So I verified that the generated content was not broken. I did not actually go through and run a diff before and after, but I verified that, hey, I can actually go through and click some of these things and it looked good enough to me, but that would have been a good test.
A diff, yep.
And Sean, am I saying right, Sean? I think it would be awesome to have a Red Hat person over there.
Cool. Yeah.
One of the good ways to get some attention, just jump on there and hit review and just say, yeah, it looks good to me. That just guilts all the other people that are maintainers into doing it. But that also gets some little visibility for you for when we want to try and nominate you of saying, hey, look, he's doing stuff over there.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, like I say, I don't have a lot of agenda here. What do folks want to chat about today?
I approved that remove reference one. Before I merge, I have one question. Just a question. Are there registries today that use a non-standard blob push format location?
I feel like some registries could potentially use a blob push location that, or there are registries that probably want to have a blob push location go straight to S3.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeff?
I don't think clients use like format it. So I mean it makes sense. It was just to me that's the bigger change in there, like more of a change, not quite a change to the spec, but
I mean, up in the top, we just say whatever location is, and I just clarified which location of multiple locations we're talking about. Jeff, can I guilt you into coming off mute?
Yeah, you can. I don't know if I'll say anything useful, but you can get me off.
Because I know you've been thinking about how can we have blob pushes go straight to something like an S3 or something like that, right?
Off and on, yeah. Ultimately haven't been diving into it enough to think it's worth it at the moment. Um, I think it's certainly an interesting area, but I mean, I think this is basically just renaming the doc field. Like it doesn't actually change anything about it, right?
Um,
The one
I
place
think
I
at the very
did that
bottom,
I
that's what
think
I'm
Derek
thinking
is
of.
looking at is down here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, as an implementer of it, is it now, where else is this used? I guess I have to open up the whole spec, but like where else is that blobs uploads? That becomes kind of like the recommended location rather than the like actual location. You know, I don't.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that bottom part. I don't think that that's right.
Yeah, so the endpoint was the only place that we actually said it had to be under V2 something blobs uploads. Like you start under blobs uploads, but after that, um, I don't know that we're really bound to that in the spec, but the endpoint itself says we are.
I mean, I was just saying, even if we're not bound to it, is it now less clear as an implementer of this spec? Like, where should I put it?
Yeah, I don't know that I like the changes down at the bottom. There are some things that I have written and have been out in a proof of concept world where those get and head upload endpoints were valid to return the kind of the status of an upload, whereas the actual upload endpoint was somewhere completely different. So yeah, I don't know that that's a safe assumption slash change to make.
So when you say it's not safe to make the change, not safe to say that someone could potentially try to upload somewhere that's not that path for the get and delete and other things.
I think this is a potentially I don't know. This seems like a change that goes beyond just renaming the field. I don't know, like that, because I think before you could have interpreted the spec that it did have to be that, like you did actually have to have a blob uploads get. Like that, I think that's a perfectly valid registry implementation. I don't know. Even if you want to do a custom push location, should you still have those
But
endpoints exist?
you couldn't form that. I think the point is you can't form that endpoint on the client on your own because you don't know what that reference there is not a tag or digest. It's whatever the registry sent previously.
Yeah, I guess that's not a reference. That's like an upload ID. Like that's
Yeah, it's like a UUID usually or whatever. It doesn't really
Yes.
matter. So I'm
yeah.
I'm not I'm not against this change. I'm just wondering if like that blobs upload is like well documented somewhere else as like here's the like standard location to put it. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that that's a URL that the client can form on its own
I think it's
or
valid
should.
And
to change the doc from saying blob upload reference. I think it's valid to change that to something other than reference, but I don't know that it makes sense to change it to blob push location.
so the blob push location is currently whatever the registry comes back to us with. So the registry says you're doing a blob push. Okay, your location is this new location. And before it said, hey, this has to have this UUID and some of this other stuff. And yeah, sure. Um, but does it have to be within that path, or can it be another path on the registry or another path on a whole other server? And do clients even care?
I guess, is there a reason why that change is being made in the same PR as the reference to tag or digest change? Like it just feels like a completely separate PR, a completely separate.
Yeah,
So
so the
It's
reasoning came by because of the endpoint at the bottom. And then when I tried to fix that up, I had to come back up here to adjust it. And I don't see anything in this that says I am bound to blob push location here. I mean, sorry, I don't see anything that says I'm bound to V2 slash name upload for the blob here. This just says it's whatever location came back from the registry.
yeah, I
So,
know when I've been implementing things, even if I return back a different location to push the blob, I still implement the get at the blob slash upload slash session ID endpoint. I had tried In the implementations I've done, I've sort of treated that as a sort of spec endpoint that needs to be up there and it's not conformant to the same location endpoint. Now, maybe that's also invalid, but I just I would be in favor of changing in the bottom spec, changing that reference to a session ID just to kind of indicate that it's not a reference.
Yeah, so you do a post the upload, and that's going to come back with something. You're assuming that that's something it comes back with is always just a path under upload. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not. I'm saying down at the very bottom that get if you actually want to get the status of that upload.
But what is this field that you're using to do that get? Where are you getting that from?
The session ID from the blob upload from the location URL. Now, again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying this feels like a separate conversation than renaming reference to Tagger Digest.
Yeah.
That's my
So
only point. I think this is worth a discussion and or clarification.
I,
I think that bottom reference should at least be changed to like a upload ID or something, but I would not just blanket wipe that out.
yeah, so I don't disagree that it's a separate conversation. You're both absolutely right, and I'm on the same page because when I was doing this, I was like, ooh. The challenge I had was if I changed this to saying it must be under V2 blob upload, then I have to change that same text up top. And that feels like a bigger change to me.
Well, I think the point though is that at the bottom, that doesn't have to be what the location is returned as. So like the blob push location doesn't have to be the same as those last two items at the bottom. Like you can put the push location as whatever you want. I think Jeff's point is like as a registry implementer, I'm still going to implement that endpoint, or I should still implement that endpoint. I think the thing that
But
is
but where are you
wrong in
getting that
this
reference from?
exactly, that's to say, I think that's the thing that's wrong in the spec is that it alludes to the top that says the blob push location must contain a UUID. Suddenly, where else is this UUID mentioned? It just says it must contain a UUID. So it's like, is it just like, it's kind of inferred that that
It,
reference is a UUID and that the registry should implement it. And I think all
yeah.
registries do, but I don't know. I'm not 100% confident in that statement, but my guess is that all registries do implement it that way, that there is a UUID that reference represents, or some form of UUID, and that you can delete that upload using blobs upload whatever ID gets returned. As I said, I'm not
So
saying it's right. I'm just saying I think that's how it is today, and so it's
yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with either of you. I was kind of back and forth on that one. The thing that I'm looking at though is that the only way to assume that that is a UUID and whatnot that's coming out of that, and that it is a location there, is that the location return must always be within this path, which means that either we're saying the path must be relative, or we're saying the path must have that full, gotta make sure I'm pointing to the right place here, must have the full name and whatnot in there. V2 slash name slash blob upload. And here I don't feel like we really clarified that must be like that. It says it must contain it.
I'm trying to look at how we actually specify that uploads endpoint at the top, or do we don't even
We even say
we don't
doesn't
even
necessarily need to be provided by the registry itself. We even said there that it can be some other machine that you're talking to.
I know, but I'm saying we don't actually refer to those items, those bottom two items that you just removed. They're not actually specified in the spec above.
Correct. Which is why I kind of got wonky because there was a spot in the spec where we had one thing at the bottom, one thing at the top, and I just made them the same thing.
Just
And the thing I'm picking, that's where I concur that I am picking something here. It is somewhat arbitrary, and I understand the concern on it.
out of curiosity and just intentionally opening a massive can of worms. Um, Is it possible that that endpoint was better defined and or specified in the half of the spec that got deleted?
Entirely possible. I'm sure right now Tion is frantically going back through old versions of the spec saying, there it
I'm
is.
hoping that he is, honestly. I'm just curious to see, like, because does kind of seem as though conventionally that is what has been implemented, and it just kind of did everyone just kind of follow the same train of thought because down at the bottom it sort of implied that, or was it actually part of spec or some other justification?
So I
Um,
actually I think that this change that you made is right. The only thing I think I'm is missing is possibly right up maybe below line 257 there is saying um the registry should implement or like maybe even not even should just like may implement and then just put that format like where the location normally is, have that reference in the spec because as soon as you remove that, it's basically they said as Jeff was saying, it's like it's a common convention that's just like all reference of it is now gone. And that I think that would actually lead to more confusion for somebody implementing the spec, be like, okay, like what should this blob push location be? And then you might just end up getting a bunch of weird you might end up getting like weird implementations of it and then hitting some clients that were assuming that it was this format. Or I just,
yeah,
yeah.
from implementing this on my own code, I've tried from the client to be as flexible as possible. If a registry sends me off somewhere else, I assume that the registry knows what it's doing and send me off somewhere else. But also as writing the registry, I tried to write it with that funky endpoint notation in there. So
But I think that's specifically why we're looking at the
yeah,
last two items though, because those ones aren't normal Reddit or normal operations done by the clients. Maybe the delete, but like the get.
but it's the same up here at the top. I mean, I changed it throughout. So for the patch, all of those got updated.
Yeah, but those are normal. I'm just saying doing that get and delete. I'm not sure that's something that clients normally do. Like, say I'm a client
So
and
so the Git,
yeah.
we added at a certain point where we realized it's not possible to resume a patch upload if any one of the patches fails without having some way to figure out where you are in the session. So that got added somewhat recently. Delete hasn't even been released yet, but was in a previous version of the spec that we deleted back in the day, conveniently enough. And that was the way you cancel an upload after you realize that you don't need to do the upload anymore. Somebody hit Control C on the command line.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So these two are new. That's why they're at the end.
Yeah, okay, from order depicted. Um, yeah, I think this change is right. It's just I think that there's something missing that format that was there before as a very common way to set the blob push location. We should have that somewhere and mention it explicitly that like it's common or like a commonly like used format there instead of reference. It's like UUID because we mentioned the UUID above, and we explicitly say there is a must there too, which sounds like
Yeah.
very strong language. Like must use a UUID, like it's like the specific like RFC for like UUIDs or like what like that's a little bit weird to me.
I was trying to mess with the rest of the spec, but I agree.
Like I think it might be worth at least calling out there that maybe instead of must contain a UUID, maybe this could just be a follow-up, but should say must contain a unique session ID and then say like a common path to put this at is upload/UUID.
And do you want me to update this PR or do you want me to make that a separate update? Because what I'm thinking is move this down a line, change it from a must to may, and then say as an implementer note, hey, some registries have often implemented it by using this path. And so it's not dictating anybody must do something. You know, the locations, whatever the registry gives you back as location as a client, you follow it.
I mean, I'm more inclined to merge it and then do it as a follow-up because I know you'll follow up. If you were like an external contributor, I would say update it
Yeah.
now because I don't know if you'll follow up.
I will follow up. I will be good. Whether it gets merged or not, we'll see.
Yeah, separate discussion. I mean, I'll merge. I'm fine merging the as it is now and then trying to clarify that more. But Jeff, what do you think?
I would personally prefer for there to be some clarification and or calling out whether that's an example or this is common or whatever. I mean, I think just in my personal preference here is that for the spec to trend towards being more opinionated on things and not much less than just returning it and say, hey, set it to whatever, it doesn't matter.
So,
That this seems
so I
like a
feel
big
like you
step
did open
back.
up a big can of worms though on the GET request, Jeff.
Oh, absolutely. I love it.
Because that one, my fear there is if you're requiring your gets from the client side to always go back to the registry server and not to wherever the location is, that differs from my understanding, and I feel like that could cause some challenges between different implementations of how this is implemented.
But I implement it that way on the registry side, not on the client side. So like I don't think it causes any problems. Like that's just how I've always done it.
So the registry gives you back a location that's always under the blob's upload path.
Yeah. Because every time I've tried to do something that goes to a different store, it always leads to pain and suffering. So
Yeah. Well, I was trying to make the flexibility here that if you wanted to go down that pain and suffering, we weren't blocking you on the spec side.
well, like yeah, I mean I guess there's a like I'd be really curious to see if anyone has ever actually done an upload endpoint on a domain other than the registry. Like that's a very open question because like every time I've gone down that path, like you would make everything else so much worse and so much more painful that like if someone has found a workaround for that, I would love to chat with you because I want this to work. I've just never been able to make it a thing. So like, is that just a convention that has more or less been adopted as, you know, unspoken spec with that? Because like to not do that, you generally, well, now your upload state is sort of in a different place. And if you are doing any sort of digesting on upload, you kind of got to do that ad hoc after the fact as well. And like you either just aren't doing a lot of validations or you're kind of throwing it all to the wind. And maybe that works, but I don't know.
Yeah, having that there's it's not clear looking at this whether or not that blob push location can be on another registry. And that is a very if it's not on another registry, that means or if it's on any other endpoint, that means that that other endpoint, in order to implement the spec, has to implement get, delete, and digest put.
I mean, 257 says it doesn't have to be on the same registry.
Not necessarily. That's the most wishy-washy code line. And
That was a committee decision right there, wasn't it?
yeah. It's like not even a may, just a nah, not necessarily.
Not sure if Rom or Sean, if either of you have encountered locations other than the registry itself.
Yeah, I think I'm with Jeff. Doing that's like from a client perspective, like really doesn't matter. But from a registry perspective, that sounds like a lot of pain. Like I know there was some discussions of like trying to do that to upload directly to like S3 or something, and then you have some weird pipeline trying to pull stuff back to the registry and verify digests and blah blah blah. It's kind of a sounds like a painful
What if it
implementation.
what if it wasn't the registry itself, but or wasn't S3 itself, but some kind of proxy right in front of S3 that did some of that, just offloading from the registry, sharding things up.
Um, Doable, but I mean, just personal experience. Most of anything that you proxy in front of S3, like if you offload to like a Cloudflare worker or a Lambda or name your cloud provider serverless technology of choice. Um, in that situation, almost all of them have caps that severely limit and go against the OCI. Well, not, I guess not really OCI spec, but um, I mean, they're high limits, like Cloudflare workers, whatever, would block you if you did anything other larger than, I think, 512 megabytes, which is a chunky layer, but like there's a lot of layers over 512 megabytes. So like that alone would block you from uploading anything there. Lambda, I think, is a similar value. You could probably do
But
something Google Cloud Run or something that might be higher, but it's gonna be challenging.
it sounds like you're hitting limits of cloud providers on their implementations, not necessarily in terms of HTTP or other kind of specs in there.
Oh, absolutely. That again, like that's why I'm kind of coming back to like I understand the spec being loose here, but I think practical limits are sort of making this be done a certain way.
So I'm just thinking through what language you'd like to see me put in here if we keep if we keep the spec language a little bit loose. We say it must contain a UUID, and I think we're all in agreement that must is pretty strong there. Clients shouldn't care. But
I think we
what
should say it
sense?
must be unique,
Yeah, unique is sensible.
and it must be a universally identified, but yeah, that doesn't have to be a UUID.
Must contain some kind of unique session for the upload to follow. So we can take a few words out of that, but so we can say that, and then doesn't necessarily need to be on the registry itself. We can say that. I'm just trying to think how strong the wording should be around saying most implementations put it on this path on the registry. Are we saying may? Are we
I
saying
would say go
should?
as far as should implement
Okay.
a upload slash UUID.
Okay. So it's not a hard must. Clients should expect that, hey, there might be some crazy implementation, so clients try to support other stuff, but registry implementers, if you want to stay within the standard expectations, we'll do it that way. I'm good with that.
I just scanned through all the client implementations I have locally, and all of them handle this correctly if the server returns some random location there. So that's Container D, QLabs OCI, Distribution, Docker CLI, GGCR, Moby, Reg Client, Scopio, Umochi. And all of those handle this correctly.
Yeah, I would say
That's an
it's inverse from the client perspective. From the client perspective, it'd be harder to support it as a specific URL instead of just treating it like opaquely or just like just use it. It makes more sense on the client to do that. But from
Yeah.
a registry's perspective, using some non-standard URL is kind of a pain.
Yeah, my concern was because registries have been so consistent about this and are generally very consistent about this, do we have clients that exist that already parse that URL semantically and pull out the session ID and then use that directly? I can't find evidence of that. So that's good.
There might have been way back in the day, but
Yeah.
I think because I I feel like we were talking about doing that in the early days of the registry in order to support resumable upload better. Um, but yeah, I don't think anything like that survived.
And yet we do have resumable upload again.
It's just
Well,
that
yeah, but
no
it makes
client
more.
anyway uses it.
Yeah.
I missed what Jeff said, and Derek didn't want to chime in with what he was going to say.
Oh, and Jeff just said no clients use it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it exists. I just have not seen any main client that properly does that. Most of them still just do a one-shot post and YOLO it.
You just shamed me.
I mean,
Saying not
outside
a
of the great
mainstream
work that
client.
you're producing, Brandon.
I'm like the only one that touched that part of the spec. No one else is that crazy.
Isn't most cases the service handles the resumable portion?
I think most cases they just do a blob post, put, gotta make sure I say my verbs right here. A blob post, and then a put with the full blob, or a post and a single patch and a put. I don't think there are any clients that do chunking by default.
We had in Containerd something to allow resumable, but within the same scope of a session. I think it's hard as a client to keep around, like if I'm pushing something and then it fails and you return the CLI back to expect a client to like, okay, I'm going to try it again and it's just going to resume. Um,
I think there's a big to-do item around there. I don't think it was actually implemented the last time I checked.
What I'll say is,
On
if you ever
down, it
did
does
that to
on
something,
download, but it doesn't on upload.
yeah, if you ever try to do that on an upload and you're talking to something like distribution without the GET request in there, you'd never find the URL that the registry is looking for to receive the content on. Because that was my challenge. People would come back and say, hey, I was trying to resume, but it couldn't.
Yeah, and because last time I checked in Containerd, it does something on downloads where if the download fails, it'll look to see how many bytes it's read, and then it'll sort of do a ranged get of how many bytes it's read plus the rest, rather than doing like an explicit chunked get, I guess for lack of a better term. But I don't think that would work on upload at all.
yeah, I'm trying to think how we would even keep track of that on upload, because if you uploaded something to the registry and then you lost a connection, you don't, yeah, you would have to get back. Does that get tell you like what the state of it is, like how much bytes it's received, and you need to like skip over it? I don't even know
I
what
don't
it
think that it
does.
would
It
work.
does.
Well, I mean, it would work on like a chunked push, but if you're doing like a single put of everything in there and it fails halfway through, you can't resume that. Only if you
Yeah.
that whole get of the upload is more if you're, hey, let me push up 100 megabytes at a time. Hey, let me do a get of how many times I've pushed, and now I know which chunk I'm on. But it wouldn't work on the single put.
The only way Reg Client does this is either A, it does a fallback if you did a monolithic push and then figured out halfway through the dropped and needs to retry, it'll retry with a chunked upload. Or if you exceed a size limit and that's configurable, you can say, hey, whenever I try to push more than 1 gig, start chunking it up into 100 megabyte chunks. But yeah, otherwise you're right, Derek. If you've got the single large patch or the monolithic, the Git doesn't handle those scenarios. We don't expect it to.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of where we would even start the upload again.
Yeah, the get has to tell you where you are, and then your chunk is supposed to resume at that next point.
This matters a lot in the LLM world and not nearly as much in most sane usage.
All right, those were good call outs. I will have a to-do on my side to open a new PR that will fix, that will clarify the path in there should be that expected path.
All right. So any objection to me just merging that right now then?
None for me.
Well, of course none from you. Jeff, is that okay if it's done in a follow-up?
I mean, as long as we actually do the follow-up, because like in the meantime, we kind of have a really not great version of the spec up there. But
I would argue we currently have a not great version as well. Yeah.
well, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I kind of feel like this is kind of a step back before we get the step forward, even if we're trying to trend in the right way.
I'll agree, but I'm gonna merge it anyways and let Brandon handle it. We'll revert it if we need to if he doesn't do it. Give him by this time next week, if he doesn't have a PR up, we're gonna revert it.
There's a thread I can get behind.
You know, a threat, I would never follow through on though.
We'll remove you from being a maintainer, and then nothing will ever get merged again.
We'll replace him with Jeff. There we go.
Please no.
The funny part
Okay,
is that Brandon is probably going to be the one who writes the notes for this meeting, so he's going to be the only one who remembers this threat.
That's
I
true.
honestly did though put it in the notes already, so
Shoot, I forgot to run granola. Just kidding.
it has been tracked.
All right,
I
I
keep the
merged
notes
it
up
for
in a
the
separate
sake
window
of
just for
going
such an
forward.
emergency. Thank you, Derek. All right, that was everything, folks. Come on, what else we got?
Wait,
That was too uncontentious.
Jeff still has another PR does any of those still need merging?
I don't know if
Uh,
they need merging. We can chat.
the tag history one, I think, has a good open question uh, that I haven't been able to address yet.
What question is that?
Um, farther. That when maybe. Um, yeah, I think it's that one of essentially there's still like a confusing case of if you don't support the extension, it's a 404. If you pass n equals 0, you're supposed to return an empty list. But if you don't, or if the repo doesn't exist, it's also a 404. But if the repo doesn't exist and you pass n equals 0, is that an empty list or a 404?
I can get theoretical or philosophical on you.
And I think maybe that's in practice, that's your fault if you're, I don't know, don't pass n equals 0. Um,
So the philosophical I'll get on you is how do you know a repo doesn't exist, especially on registries where repos can just come and go and be dynamically created?
I mean, it's kind of like at time, right? I mean, does it exist when you're querying it?
But could it have existed in the past? Is it going to exist in the future? Existence is relative.
I don't have time for that today, Brandon. I mean, I think it's an edge case. I don't know if it's necessarily a realistic edge case, but it technically is a thing.
I'm looking at it saying, what can I use the 404 to tell me from the client side? And how useful is that to me as a client when I'm implementing it? And so for me, it's useful to know that this API isn't implemented at all because I'll just not pester you for it. But if I can't rely on the 404 to tell me that, I might still keep querying until I can be absolutely sure. And I don't know if I can ever be absolutely sure, so I might just constantly use it.
Yeah, because I
And
mean,
so
I
that,
think, well, actually, I think the n equals 0 was copied over from kind of like the tag listing.
yeah, sounds like a tag
Um,
listing one.
and I wonder if that doesn't even make sense in this context.
I'm fine seeing n equals 0 gotten rid of. I think it's kind of useful given an empty response, not a 404 response, when you're there and the client gives you something that just can't be satisfied. There is no
But,
history available for a thing you just asked for.
yes, but I think, but it also requires two things to be true, kind of. Because either the repo has to exist, the tag has to exist, or has existed in the past. And so, whereas like tag listing passing n equals 0 is very much a, only the repo has to exist. Now you'd have to be querying a valid tag on a valid repo to know whether or not n equals 0 returns a 404 or an empty list. So it kind of makes a poor test for history
But
unless you know that the tag exists and the repo exists.
for me as a registry implementer, if I was to implement this API, I feel like I would just always give you back an empty list unless I had some data and not even bother with the 404.
Yeah, that might be maybe a better option because if you're passing n equals 0 and it doesn't exist, then yeah, maybe that makes more sense. I can get behind that.
And that gives me the value from the client that anytime I query this, if I get a 404, if we specify it that way and we say, hey, you must always get back an empty list. If I get back a 404, I know I'm talking to an older registry that doesn't support the, or even a newer registry that just doesn't support this API at all. And don't bother hitting that API.
Yeah, because then 404 only means it's not supported, not that anything about the data itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I can update that proposal to match. And
And then
then
you
it's
just
ready
avoid
for,
my entire philosophical argument of what does it mean to exist.
I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Any other questions over here we should be answering?
I think a lot of the others were somewhat talking about variable naming and everything else, which I'm happy to also have conversation about. But I think that was the only one that was how is this use case actually handled?
Cool. We're making progress.
Slowly but surely.
That's the way we roll in OCI.
It's true.
Nothing goes fast around here. All right, folks. You turned a completely empty discussion into an entire 50 minutes when I wasn't even sure I was going to be here at the start of the day. That was damn impressive. Anything else you folks want to chat about, or should I give you back 10 minutes? Your call.
Let's
Going
call it a
once.
day. Otherwise, I'll come up with something else.
All right. Well, that's your job for next week. Come up with something else for next week because I got nothing for then either. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your week. Have a good weekend. And
Next week, you're gonna do the fix for the upload location.
yeah, I'll have that. But
So
I'm
that's
also
gonna be a
gonna,
big agenda item.
yeah, but I'm also gonna be doing the same thing I was doing this morning, another day of probably checking nobody in at election desk for half the morning. So there is potential that I will be driving home at the same time dialing into the meeting, which is why I try to lower expectations.
Fair enough.
All righty. Have a great rest of the week. See you next time. Cheers all.
Later.
Later, everybody.